Almost everyone plays Mozart's Turkish March wrong. And it's not because they're bad pianists. It's because the way classical music is taught trains musicians not to think for themselves. That might sound dramatic for some of you, and I understand that. But by the end of this video, I think you'll understand exactly what I mean.
If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you'd like to see more videos like this one in the future, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below. All right, let's go back to Louis.
If you have ever attended a few piano recitals, you've probably noticed something strange. It's like you hear the same kinds of pieces again and again. A famous sonata, a few short character pieces, followed by maybe one flashy virtuoso work. And more often than not, those pieces are played in remarkably similar ways. That's not a coincidence. You see, classical musicians are trained largely through oral tradition. Let me elaborate. Teachers demonstrate, students imitate, and those students often become teachers themselves. Over time, interpretations are passed down, reinforced, and eventually are treated as fact. Add conservatory auditions, competition standards, and recording culture into the mix, and voila, suddenly, certain interpretations become correct, while others are treated as mistakes. But that raises a bigger question. If music is subjective, why do we argue about it like it's math? Think about how often you've heard someone say, "I don't like how that pianist played that piece." And there's nothing wrong with that. But notice how quickly that turns into, "They played it wrong." So let me ask you this. Does music have any objective elements at all? Or is everything purely a matter of taste? I want to explore that question using one of the most famous and possibly misunderstood pieces in the piano repertoire. The piece I want to focus today is the third movement of Mozart's famous piano sonata in A major, K331, often also called the Turkish March. Even people who don't know the title recognize the tune. Because it sounds bright and playful, it's often given to children. It also doesn't help that teachers see fewer notes than in Chopin or Rachmaninoff pieces and assume that it's an easy piece. I thought that exact same thing when I learned it, but I was wrong. There's a famous saying that Mozart's music is too easy for children and too difficult for artists. By the way, that quote is straight from Arthur's novel. And once you've tried to play it well, you understand exactly why. Mozart is exposed. There's nowhere to hide. With fewer notes, every sound matters, every articulation matters, and every decision matters. People often say Mozart should flow like oil, and that sounds poetic, but also terrifying, because achieving that kind of clarity requires intention and not autopilot. And this is where repetition becomes a real problem. When people say Mozart is easy, what they usually mean is this: the patterns repeat, the material comes back. Nothing looks overwhelming at first glance, but repetition is exactly what makes this piece so difficult. To understand why, we need to look at how the piece is actually composed. Jordan, this is where I need you.
Rondo form is another one of those structures that was super common in the classical period. Alongside other giants such as the Sonata Allegro form and theme and variations, the Rondo form provided a nice foundation for composers to elaborate upon. This structure in particularly involves an A section with contrasting material. We usually call this with a different letter, so it'd be A, B, A, C, A, etc., as long as the A keeps returning. It's kind of like playing a main story on a video game and then going and doing a side quest while putting the main story on pause. Don't worry, everyone. I'll save the world. Just let me go fishing for this guy and get 50 bucks real quick.
As you've heard, this is why Mozart is deceptively hard. You're playing the same material repeatedly, but each return has to feel earned. Not louder, not faster, not flashier, just more meaningful. If you don't understand the structure, repetition turns into autopilot. That's when Mozart starts sounding either childish or empty. Today, we live in an age of unlimited recordings. That's an incredible gift, but it comes with a cost. When students hear a piece played a certain way over and over again, that version slowly becomes the piece itself. Instead of exploring the score, they replicate a recording. And when famous pianists play the Turkish March, the contrast is extreme. Some take it blisteringly fast, almost as a display of ease. Others take it slower, I mean very slowly. So which one is right? Here's the part most piano students are never told. The score you're reading might not even be from Mozart. To explain why, we need to talk about score editions.
So what's an edition? An edition is just a version of the score that has been touched by an editor, usually by some publisher. There are multiple different editions that have different markings. These markings usually include the smaller things such as dynamics, tempos, maybe some ritardandos, other rubato elements. But other times, editions are a little more radical, and they may even have different notes, which can get very confusing for performers. The climate that all this confusing editorial markings has created can sometimes be a bit frustrating for performers. That's why some performers have gone back to the original source material, which we call Urtext. That's a type of the score which is unedited, leaving only the composer's original markings. The value of that is you lose all of this confusing elements and you're stuck with just the music. And you get to decide what kind of music you want to make, which can be one of the hindrances of an edited edition. If it's edited, you're kind of at the mercy of your editor, and you might think that their interpretation's correct, and you're really closing yourself off. So it's really important to kind of go out there and see what you can find edition-wise, and to make sure you're always striving to keep your own voice.
Now let's look at the opening of the Turkish March. In one commonly used edition, the opening figure appears as 4 equal 16th notes followed by an 8th note. But in the Urtext edition, the first note is written as an appoggiatura, which is a small grace note leaning into the main pitch. That single detail changes everything. The melodic emphasis shifts. The phrase breathes differently. The harmony becomes clearer. These aren't small technicalities. They shape how generations of pianists hear this piece. In addition, most classical music treats the right hand as the melody and the left hand as an accompaniment. But that assumption can blind us. When I heard a masterclass demonstration by Alfred Cortell that brought out the left hand in this piece, it completely changed how I understood it. What I thought was accompaniment suddenly felt like a counter melody. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Classical music isn't about pressing the right keys at the right time. It's about recreation, turning the written symbols into sound. And recreation requires justification. Why perform this piece at all when so many others already have? The answer can't simply be because this is how it's always been done. There may be objective elements in music, but interpretation lives in choice. The most dangerous thing you can do as a musician or a music student isn't playing wrong notes. It's refusing to make decisions. So just for fun, I decided to find the recording by an unknown pianist. See what you think. If you've enjoyed this conversation, let us know what you think in the comments. And if you made it this far, that's probably a sign that you should like this video and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.